Perfect. Okay. Yes. Hello, everyone. My name is Bastian Berlin, and I'm from the Swedish Paying Agency, the Swedish Board of Agriculture. And I've prepared a short presentation, and we'll talk a bit about our experiences with Sen4 Cup and information around that topic. So for 2020, we had essentially three goals, and that was to just test the system and see what's possible. Sweden is, well, it is a very large country, but we don't have that much agriculture, for example, now in comparison to Poland. And we have quite a big geographical variety with parcels above the polar circles and very short growing seasons, but also very rich agriculture areas in the south and in the southern coastal regions. So we just wanted to see, okay, what's possible to do with the system and where do we need to sort of maybe fix our own solutions. And then for 2020, we thought like, okay, maybe we can use this sort of in production to actually cut down on some of the field controls. So we were using the mowing analysis to as a sort of risk analysis to avoid a second field control. And for you who are not so familiar with the control system, it's if a farm is under taken out for control for on-the-spot checks, and the controller cannot see that an activity has been done, they will visit later on in the season and see if they've cut the grass or they had the animals out for grazing. But if they come too early, maybe the farmer has not done it. So they need to come one more time. And these visits they cost a lot, especially if you need to drive long distances. Sometimes we have parcels on islands, so they need to take a boat. We even had helicopters taking people, controllers to parcels. So it can be it can cost a lot to check some of these parcels. So we thought, perfect, we will use the Sen4 Cup system for that. And then sort of as a general preparation for the area monitoring system, which we need to have in place 2023 or 4, depending on when things get started. So these were the major goals. Shortly about the timeline. So in February, March, I attended the workshop and thought, wow, this is great. We want the test login to test this system on one of the tiles. And I mean, we were aware that we had the restriction with the 60 degrees north DEM. So we are one of the 2 or 3 countries which are affected by this. And that means that pretty much everything north of Stockholm, our capital, cannot be analyzed in Sen4 Cup, which is not great, of course. But we still thought like we will try it. We can still use it for the south. And at that stage, it was still unclear if maybe the DEM might be changed later on. Then under April, August, we said, okay, we tested now Sen4 Cup and we were very pleased. So we installed it on Creodias and for southern Sweden. But at that stage, it was also clear that we would not get another height model. So we said, okay, we do our own analysis for northern Sweden. And that one is based on our own script in R, and we are using an API for Sentinel Hub from Synergize, which also had a new cloud mask, which was very interesting to test. And we're pretty much just getting a JSON from the API with the time series for the NDVI and cloud information. But then under summer, we were running into some problems with Sen4 Cup, and it was just different things. I mean, some other presenters have mentioned similar things. It's not always so easy to sort of get the data in the right format. And we had, I think later on, Cosmin discovered a little problem in one of in the analysis script, which he fixed. And I mean, the support was always really great, but it was just like, a bit of a bumpy road. So the problem was that in August, we said, okay, now it's time for the first first results for our controls. And yeah, Central Cup was not ready to actually deliver, so it delayed, and we used our own analysis for the whole country. We also had some delays with especially with the Sentinel-1, and there the problem is that it takes a lot of time to actually produce these Sentinel-1 products. So with every day of delay, it's just getting longer and longer until you're up to your day you want to do the analysis with all of the Sentinel-1 products. So that was a bit of a problem as well. But in September and October, it was time for the second analysis result for our controls, and Central Cup was ready by then. We fixed everything, and so we used Central Cup and also the API for the North. And some findings. So this is just for these 12,000 parcels, and it is sort of, you could imagine it, some of them being the worst parcels you could analyze, because the controllers were out there, so they already had a reason in a lot of cases to actually control the farm, and then they didn't find an activity the first time. So under the best time to actually take a grass harvest, like in July, for example, they didn't find one. So it's a already higher risk that the farmer might not actually do something on these parcels. So that's a bit to consider when you look at the results. But for average 58% of all the parcels, we could detect an activity. And based on that, depending on the region a bit, 5 to 25% of the farms did not need the second control, because we could actually, based on the results, say that they fulfilled all of the activities. And then why is it only 58%? Well, 15% of the parcels were too small or tree covered, especially on pastures. We have, a problem with trees. They're great for biodiversity, and they're very historical grazing areas, but it's not good for satellite analysis. And then 5 to 10%, you actually should not have an activity, because that's the ones the farmers actually did not do anything. But we only used the sort of positive results to not do a check. We did not use sort of the opposite. So the parcels where we didn't find anything there, we just did a field control instead. And another problem is these were meadows and pastures mixed. And for the meadows, I mean, it is a it is a mowing analysis. It's not a grazing analysis. So for only 20% of the pastures, we could find an activity, the grazing activity. And we're not even sure if it's grazing. A farmer can sort of clean the parcel a bit as well, sort of take bushes and stuff away. So maybe it's just that what we actually detected here. And we had a very cloudy July, which is not great, because that's where a lot of farmers do the grass cutting, and we had a lot of clouds. A bit of the quality. So this is precision, and we split it into meadows and pastures, and our analysis, which is the one we built, and the Central Cup analysis. And they're fairly similar. It's not a perfect comparison, because the time series was a bit more narrow for Central Cup than for our analysis. And you could see that clouds were sort of a much bigger factor for Central Cup. And I mean, that's also a bit about the time series we picked for Central Cup and for but also I think the cloud mask we used in our analysis is actually working a bit better. But yeah, I mean, it's not, I wouldn't, yeah, I mean, these results, they're a bit preliminary, so don't interpret too much into it. Yeah, and then I wanted to talk just a bit about the pastures. I mean, we have about 13% of the area in Sweden is sort of semi-natural grasslands. And I've picked 2 examples to sort of show what that means in Sweden. And in the upper right corner, you can see kind of, yeah, I would say it's a bit representative. There's quite a lot of trees. In the bottom, you have sort of a moist area. And you have, I mean, there's a lot of grass under these trees, so it's not a problem about the animals not finding food, but it's very hard to analyze because of all of the trees and tree shadows and differences in moisture and so on. And in the bottom right, you have one of the coastal grasslands. So you have like, kind of these dry areas, rocky parts, maybe some bushes. They're very great for biodiversity, but really hard to analyze. And so this is kind of what we're looking at right now. And this is where sort of our own analysis comes in. And it's something I hope we can integrate sort of as a external part of Sen4Cup, where we can still use the data, which is in the databases for Sen4Cup, but sort of build our own analysis around it for pastures. And as you can see in the diagram, the red line, that's the NDVI graph, and it's sort of almost parallel, so it's very flat, and that's one of the. And then you have like this little bump there, and that's pretty much where the grazing is happening. But as you can see, it happens slowly over sort of 3 to 4 weeks, and that's just not something the mowing analysis detects. And I guess it's not really supposed to detect it because it's not mowing, it's slow grazing. And in the bottom, you have an even flatter line. And here we're sort of looking at linear models actually to sort of try to find it. And I sort of imagine it being a bit like a football field, which is like cut frequently and just kept very neat and fresh. So the grass just doesn't wither really. It's always fresh. It's always nice because the animals are grazing over the whole season. So you don't get this sort of curve. You get very, very flat profile. So we're sort of looking at linear regressions and sort of polynomials to compare and to actually try to find the activities or make sort of an indicator system when we think grazing happened, but it's very different to mowing. Yeah, and so what are our plans for this year? Well, we still think Sen4Cup is great, even though it was a bit bumpy, but I mean, it was also just sort of me working with it, and now we are getting a few more people on the team. So our plan is to analyze all of the parcels for the basic payment scheme. So we're looking at crop classification and mowing analysis from Sen4Cup. And then I hope that I can sort of integrate this grazing analysis into sort of the Sen4Cup system. I'm not sure yet how, but we'll see. We're also getting 2 more remote sensors in our team. So it's not just me trying to puzzle things together anymore. And at the same time, we'll do sort of the same analysis for the controls again, since we were very satisfied with that. And we're also looking at activity analysis for certain parcels for LPS update. We don't get orthophotos very frequently. In some areas, every 2 years, in some areas, every 4 or 6 years. So it's great to have this additional information to do better LPS update. And we also want to collect more field data, mainly for grazing and also abandoned grasslands, to sort of compare grazed pastures to abandoned grasslands and make sort of a comparison model there. So that's all I had to say. It's maybe a bit short, but if you have further questions or want to sort of maybe have similar problems and just want to bounce some ideas, you can always contact me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bastian.